on to the Broncos, which is what everyone's so hyped on currently.
Everyone except me.
Everyone except you. And I am a believer that Drew Lock will just get better and better, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to tango with Mr. Patrick Mahomes because he's just a different animal. The only saving grace that this team has is that they have a way better defense than the Chiefs do. And
Are you sure it's not their backup quarterback, Jeff Driscoll, who we all know and love so much?
No. No, Jeff Driscoll is not going to be the reason why this team succeeds. It will be because of Drew Lock.
And good old Melvin Gordon and that whole list of running backs they have.
Yeah, they've got some really good talent on this team. And just to get all the positives from this team. So Drew Lock started his career 4-1. He only lost to the Chiefs, and that game was a blizzard, mind you. And
it is Colorado.
And I think it was actually in Chiefs.
Oh, really?
Chiefs,
really?
Yeah. So
Interesting.
For him to develop, he'll just need some good coaching, which they brought in Pat Shurmur, who is known for improving rookie quarterbacks and younger quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So the offense, I feel like, is going to improve, at least on play calling. The offensive line, they picked up some talent in the draft, Cushenberry and Datane Matui, which was the steal of the draft, in my opinion. He could easily be the next, the guard from the Colts. I can't remember his name. Quentin Nelson. He could easily be the next Quentin Nelson. And if that's the case, you're going to see a huge spike in Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon's rush production. Not to mention that all the offensive weapons that they now have, including Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and their 4-4 speedy tight end, also a huge giant. I can't pronounce his name. Not going to even try to, but he's fast.
Oh, you mean Okwagbanum?
Okwagbanum, yes.
I think that's close.
We looked it up, and that's what he says.
Yeah, that's what he says.
That's exactly what he says. So if I get people in the comments saying
he can't even say it a second time. Okwagbanum.
Okwagbanum.
Yeah, Okwagbanum.
Okwagbanum.
That I'm challenging everyone right now who's typing in the comments. Oh, you said it wrong. I'm challenging you to say it 5 times faster right now. Because that is a long name.
We're now a challenge channel.
Yeah, it was a long name, man. We specifically made sure to look that one up.
Yeah, we tried to say it 5 times real fast. Couldn't do it. I want to know what his where he's from, what his heritage is. It would be interesting to find out more about him since he can run so fast at being so tall and all that good stuff. He's gonna be awesome. I just can't wait to watch him. Anyways, their draft, just to go off of that, was the best in the league. They filled in spots for the linemen to shore up the inside with Glasgow and free agency, Cushenberry, Matui. That just takes care of the inside. They got Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. KJ Hamler is a speedy slot guy, and I absolutely love speedy slot receivers. You just look at the Wes Welkers and the Julian Edelmans of the world. They always seem to just get open. And Jerry Jeudy's probably a bona fide number 1 along with Cortland Sutton. And Cortland Sutton's the bigger guy, and Jerry Jeudy's just your overall good talent. So this team is just stacked when you look at it, especially with Okwagbanum being so fast at the tight end position. This team is a mini Chiefs.
You know, I really think in the draft, I know you say that there's other steals, but I really think Jerry Jeudy was kind of like I think he went a little too far. Like I think somebody should have had Jerry Jeudy snatched him up. But I really think that some teams let Jerry Jeudy go, and I think Jerry Judy's gonna come out to Denver and be like, look, I know you picked people before me. Y'all shouldn't have picked people before me.
Yeah, I agree. They had a lot of steals. I just don't understand how they did it so often.
I don't know.
Oh, Matui's there. Oh, Jerry Jeudy's here. Oh, Okwagbanum is here. and Hamler. We'll just pick up another receiver that's really good. It just their whole list. They even got a defensive tackle. I can't remember his name. I'll look it up real quick. But he's also he got picked up way later than he should have, and he should have been like a second round talent, but ended up going in like the third or fourth round. And he's gonna be a force in the inside too. And not to mention that they traded for AJ Boye and also Jarrell Casey for next to nothing. They plugged in holes from the losses of Derek Wolfe and Chris Harris Jr. with better talent.
Let me just ask you this real quick. What the heck is going on in the NFL this season in the offseason? So many players are going to places for darn near nothing. Like, are coaches just getting tired of their players, or like, because I'm telling you, Jarrell Casey and freaking AJ Boye, both of those are a steal. Like, they just
AJ Boye was like a 5th round.
Yeah,
and then Jarrell Casey was a 7th round.
Yeah,
and I understand Jarrell Casey's older, but legit was part of the reason why the Titans went to the playoffs in the first place.
Yeah, he was part of their massive defense.
Yeah, so this team is stacked when you look at it on paper. It is ridiculous, and it all will depend on Drew Lock's potential. Is he good enough to tango with Patrick Mahomes? He's got the touch. He's got to work on his awareness and setting his feet more. He's got to get more adapted to an NFL style offense, and now having a new offense coordinator, we got to see how well he does with that. And considering how Pat Shurmur is kind of like a quarterback whisperer for young guys, this could be very, very scary for the Chiefs. I don't necessarily think that they sweep the Chiefs, but I feel like they're going to split very easily. They're going to just depending on where the location is, they're going to split.
We were talking about their defense, and even if you look at it, like, we didn't even talk about still having Von Miller and Bradley Chubb. Like, both of those guys, like, Bradley Chubb is bona fide, like, good.
Yeah.
And Von Miller, he's shown you year in, year out that he may be getting older, but he's not slowing down. Like, he might slow down a little bit. He's not doing stuff he was doing when it was like his 3rd, 4th year in the league, but he is still going out there and leading your team and telling guys exactly what they need to do and going out there and just being.
When you pick up a guy like Jarrell Casey, that requires you to think about double teams.
Yeah.
There we go again.
We go again. Back to the double teams, where I swear every podcast just goes back to the double teams, because if you can get guys that have to get double teams, your linebackers just get freed up so much. And like, people who haven't necessarily played the game of football before, like, at least on from a defensive perspective, or like on an offensive line, when you have to double team and you free up that linebacker, especially if you can fight through that double team, that ruins every scheme that you could possibly run on offense, because there's no scheme on earth where it will allow you for 3 men to block 1. That will never happen. And if that happens, something on your offense has gone horribly wrong. Somebody's blocking something wrong. So to have guys like Jarrell Casey and to free up Von Miller, like Von Miller coming straight at you in open field free, that's a scary thing. That's a scary sight.
So I mean, it's going to be nuts. The Denver Broncos, they deserve all the hype that they're getting. Whether or not that translates, we'll see. They've got all the talent on paper, and we've talked about how the talent doesn't always necessarily translate.
Yeah. Again, going back to Drew Lock a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've watched his stuff, and I'm not as impressed as everybody else is. I think he can be a good quarterback, but I think a lot of that's going to depend on Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, those guys around him, kind of coming together and figuring out what they need to do. But a real key factor of their offense, at least on paper, and I know we keep saying on paper, but it really is just like looking at it. Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay, Royce Freeman. All 3 of those guys, even Royce Freeman is their 3rd back, technically. Last year he was their 2nd back, and he was still doing like well. So you have 3 backs that you can rotate in at any point, which is really dangerous, because in the NFL, or even most sports in general, if even like say the game of basketball, if you have 3 point guards on your team or 2 point guards on your team that are just really good, and all they do is like play point guard, so they rotate with each other, and you can keep them fresh, and they're both like really good, high talent, like back to football with Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, if you can keep those guys fresh, you can just keep running the ball all day, especially if a team is not as good at stopping the run. We saw last year there was obviously teams in the playoffs when the Titans started just running the ball over everybody with Derrick Henry. When you can just start running the ball, and Melvin Gordon obviously isn't the monster that Derrick Henry is, but Melvin Gordon has proven over the past couple of years, maybe not as much last season because of a bunch of politics and this, that, and the other on contracts and everything. But Melvin Gordon's a good running back. Phillip Lindsay came out of nowhere and last year and just started lighting things up. And people were like, "Oh, well, we gotta take a double take at Phillip Lindsay to make sure we don't overlook him." Because it's easy to overlook him, especially since he's a shorter guy.
Yeah,
but things like that, yeah.
Another interesting fact about Phillip Lindsay: he's one of the top running backs to gain yards before contact, which is one of the reasons why he was so effective last season. I feel like with the additions that they made in the inside, you're going to see a huge spike in production on the run game. And because of that, you're going to see all three of them really just make impacts one way or another. They're going to be able to run the football up the middle, and Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay both can run outside. They can catch the ball. It's going to be tough for defenses to really figure out what they're going to come after them with because, they got 2 good tight ends. They've got 3 really good receivers. They got 2 really good running backs. They've got great inside linemen now. They've got, a stellar defense. It'll be interesting to see how much they improve, though. 7-9 last season. I feel like they go at least 10-6, even with basically a rookie quarterback, because they literally got everything figured out except for like one tackle spot.
I'm really kind of wondering how. So with Drew Lock, so he did play games last year, and he did do well, but I'm kind of wondering how. So with just comparing it real quick to Aaron Rodgers, who got to sit behind like Brett Favre for a few seasons, I'm kind of wondering if Drew Lock kind of missed out on that whole sit behind a quarterback for 1 or 2 seasons and learn. Because, let's be honest, he sat behind Joe Flacco, who when he went to Denver was already kind of like hurt, basically. He left the Ravens because the season before he'd been hurt, and Lamar Jackson came in and lit it up, basically. So the Ravens were like, well, we're moving on from you. We don't need you anymore, Joe Flacco. And Joe Flacco went out there, and Joe Flacco was still pretty much hurt.
Broken down.
Yeah, he was broken down. So I hate to say a guy was well past his prime, but he kind of was at that point. So, obviously he still had the mind to teach Drew Lock some things, but the industry of football, we'll just call it an industry for right now, is actually really competitive. So a lot of the guys don't teach their backups a lot. Like they'll be like, look, this is what you have to do in this situation, but I'm not going to help you do it because obviously you don't want to be replaced. Nobody ever wants to be like, oh, you're too old, get out of here, you're replaced. Nobody wants their successor to just overtake them. They want to be there as long as they can. But it's still like I assume Drew Lock probably did learn some things from Flacco, but I don't know if that there was much that Flacco could teach Drew Lock that Drew Lock didn't necessarily already know.
Yeah. And so that is why I'm very high on them. Thomas is not, just because of Drew Lock. And it is a big question mark about Drew Lock, but I've seen the film on him so far, and if I were to be a betting man, I would be betting on the Broncos.
See, one last thing real quick about Drew Lock. I hate to sound so negative about him, but I've seen it before where a quarterback will come in the end of the season, do really well, and then he'll come back next season because he's their starting guy. He goes in and then he just stinks, and he's just not what they thought he was, and he was just riding a high horse of coming in. Yeah, Nick Foles. Like Nick Foles, he is a premier backup quarterback. He'll come in and just light up and win you games, but the second he has to start the season, you're not getting a whole lot of production out of him. So I'm like, Drew Lock, all the potential to be really great. And especially if Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and all those guys can all get on the same page, they can be dangerous. But again, it's all on paper. We'll see when the season starts for them.